Hi, welcome to BCI Ask the Experts. I'm Brad White. I'm happy to be joined by two good experts today, Dr. Brian Lubers.
Good morning, Brad.
And Dr. Megan Rolfe, who is a geneticist with Kansas State Animal Science.
Good morning.
So we're happy to have them here. On this program, we get a chance to answer your questions. So as always, if you have a question, you can send it to us at bci@ksu.edu. And today's question comes from a listener worried about calving in heifers and cows, and how can we use expected progeny differences to pick bulls that will lead us to no calving problems. Megan, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, well, I would say the first thing we want to do is maybe think about managing our heifers and cows differently. So for heifers, I would go in and choose a high accuracy bull with a high calving ease direct EPD. And for cows, I would be a little bit less concerned about that. We certainly don't want calving difficulty, but calving difficulty incidences in cows are far lower than heifers. So at that point, I probably want the largest calf I can get that I don't have to pull.
Absolutely, one you don't have to intervene with. So good start for Megan, 5 points. Brian?
I completely agree with the guest on this one. So I agree. I think with the heifers, we want the high accuracy. I had not really thought of that, but you're right. We don't, unpredictability in heifers is completely counter, as far as calving goes, is counter to everything we're trying to do. So a high accuracy bull, good calving ease, but I don't think that necessarily, don't think that necessarily means the lowest birth weight. And with cows, yeah, we've got a little more room to work there. Calving difficulty wouldn't be as common in cows, and so I think cows are the opportunity to focus on other EPD traits beyond calving ease and birth weight. And actually, we focus a lot on birth weight. We probably really should focus on calving ease, because we know, if we have a really small calf, it's going to be, there's some negative impacts for long-term growth and weaning weights and things like that. So typically, right, there's a correlation. The smaller he is when he's born, the smaller he probably will be when he's weaned.
Okay, five points for Brian. Good answer, and I agree. So you're talking separating the heifers and the cows, focusing on calving ease. One of the things, Megan, I want to follow up with you. You mentioned calving ease direct. So can you differentiate calving ease direct versus calving ease maternal, and when I would use each trait?
Yeah, so calving ease direct is what we want to use when we want a small calf in that generation. Calving ease maternal is what you want to use when you're thinking about calving ease in the heifers that I keep as replacements.
So if I'm buying a bull and I want to be sure that his calves are born easily, calving ease direct.
That's exactly right.
And if I am buying a bull and I want to make sure that his daughters have an easy time calving, I'm thinking calving ease maternal.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So a couple points there for clarifying. That's up to 7. Now, Brian, you mentioned calving difficulty and your concern, and let's focus on the heifers. What are some of the ways you mentioned accuracy, birth weight, the calving ease direct? What are some of the other ways you're going to use to prevent dystocia or difficult calvings?
Yeah, so we've talked about EPDs and kind of the genetic strategy and the planning, and then after that it's just the management part, right? So and I think you kind of separated those into 2 separate stages, but you really have to think about them together. And so if I'm a full-time producer and calving becomes my job for a few months, that's a much different scenario than if I have a small herd and I'm a part-time producer, and maybe I have another employment in town that takes me away from the farm. So it becomes even more, those characteristics, like you said, accuracy, low birth weight, those become even more critical for the part-time producer, because that one dystocia, A, it's probably a smaller herd, so one dystocia carries more weight in that smaller herd, but B, the chance to intervene from a management side may not be as quick or as frequent, and so it kind of compounds it. So I think actually thinking about your management style or your production system should be considered when you're talking about, so those genetic tools, EPDs, become even more important depending on what your operational situation is.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you're right. It has to be, those genetic EPD indicators are not standalone. You have to combine it with your management. Great answers there, and the focus on calving knees direct when you're looking at trying to prevent those dystocias. Manage the cows and heifers separately. Thanks for joining us, Megan and Brian. Appreciate your input. As always, if you have questions for us, you can send them to bci@ksu.edu.